I would like to invite now Greta Mazzetti and Marco De Angelis for the overview of the key results of the project. The title of the presentation is the H-Work Project Journey and the Key Exploitable Results. I will leave the floor to them.
Thank you. So, welcome again to this final event. I'm going to just provide an overview of the H-Work project. And I start with the description of the, let's say, the founding of the project. So, together with H-Work, also, as you can see, 4 projects were founded as research and innovation actions by the Horizon 2020 European Programme. And the general topic was health, demographic change, and well-being. And as you know, the other projects, so our sister projects that are Empower, Magnet for Europe, and Mind Up and Mind Both were all focused on the promotion of mental health in the workplace. So, as actually also Santo Di Nuovo said before, H-Work project was aimed to, let's say, to design, to implement, and to evaluate multi-level interventions to promote mental health across European SMEs and public organizations. We know that these contexts are particularly vulnerable as they often have limited resources and knowledge to manage employees' mental health. So the project involved 14 partners across 9 European countries, and over a period of 45 months, the interventions were implemented across 10 intervention sites in 5 different countries. So we included 6 SMEs and also 4 public institutions. About the general objectives of our project, the first one was to develop the toolkits. So the first one for the assessment of employees' needs, so the HAT, and then the HIT for the implementation of multi-level mental health solutions. And they had to evaluate the effects of the implemented intervention. The second one was not only to implement, but also to validate the toolkits in order to make them sustainable and adaptable to the specific characteristics of different European organizational contexts, both SMIs and public organizations. The third outcome, the third aim was to exploit the toolkits, but also to introduce products and services by developing the H-Work Innovation Platform. I think that the following contribution will explain in details the main features of this platform, but also to publish policy briefs and recommendations on mental health promotion in the work setting. These are, as you know, the main pillars behind our project. So first of all, a bottom-up approach, because we know that employees actually have the best knowledge of their own workplace, so they were actively engaged from the identification to the main stressors in the workplace to the definition of suitable solutions. Then the positive occupational health psychology approach, because H-Work was aimed not only to prevent ill health symptoms and adverse conditions, but also to promote employees' resources. And then we implemented multi-level solutions in line with the IGLU model. So according to this framework, in order to be effective, intervention must tackle, let's say, the resources and demands located at different levels of analysis. So the individual level, but also the group level, leadership level, and the overall organizational level. And then in H-Work, digital technologies were exploited not only for data collection and storage, but also for the implementation of e-mental health interventions and for the development of the HWork Innovation Platform. About the data collection, we started with the need analysis at T0 in all the intervention sites. As you know, the need analysis included context measures, so let's say data aimed to gain an overall picture of the organizational context, but also interviews with the senior and middle managers. And the aim was to explore the presence of policies and practices for mental health promotion in the workplace and how they were perceived by managers, but also to assess management's involvement in mental health promotion, and also the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic in the work setting. Then we conducted focus groups with samples of employees, and the aim was to explore how the concept of mental health was understood in the work context, and also to perform a cognitive mapping exercise to identify demands and resources perceived as crucial by employees. And I think that the colleagues from TNU then are going to explain this in details. So about the effect analysis, as you can see, we collected data at different time points. So at T1, before the implementation phase, so before the implementation of interventions, then at T6, so at the end of the implementation phase, and then we had the follow-up at T7, so 6 months after the T6. As you can see, we involved, let's say, distal and proximal measures among the others, and these are, let's say, subjective, employee-centered, and quantitative measures. They differ because we know that proximal measures aim to explore, let's say, the causally closest and direct impacts of interventions. Distal measures are aimed to assess, let's say, the indirect and causally far effects and impacts of the adopted solutions. As you can see, at T6, we also involved a cost-effectiveness analysis. So we collected also economic data to evaluate our interventions and their effect. And then we also collected data during the implementation phase at T2, so at the end of each intervention action. And the aim was to assess how these actions were perceived by participants, but also, as you can see, 3, 4, and 5, so every 3 months after the beginning of the implementation phase. And the aim was to explore how the intervention actions were integrated into daily practices and procedures at work, and also to, let's say, to explore the impact of this process, let's say, in the daily activity. So I'd like to just present a short recap of the moments that we shared in order, let's say, to discuss and also to disseminate the advancements and results of our project. So we started, as you perfectly remember, almost 4 years ago in this room in January 2020 with the kickoff meeting. Then we took part to different international and European conferences across Europe, from Bordeaux to Reykjavik, Ljubljana, then the consortium meeting in Valencia last March, and then again the SIOP, the Yearwork Congress, and in July the European Congress of Psychology in Brighton. And of course today, the final event, just to celebrate all the achievements that we were able to attain together. I conclude my presentation with some numbers, and I know that Marco is going to describe all the KPIs and results in detail. So we implemented, as you know, 40 mental health interventions, We had more than 1,500 participants. We involved 169 supervisors and managers, and we were able to validate 14 toolkits, but also more than 30 psychosocial, process, and economic metrics. And the toolkits were translated into 7 different European languages. And according to our results from the implementation of our interventions, we were able to, let's say, maintain, to preserve the level of mental health and of productivity across the intervention sites involved in our project. So now I leave the floor to Marco. Thank you.
Thank you, Greta. So, it's my pleasure now to present you our key exploitable results. So the H4 platform, innovation platform, that will be presented more in detail right after this presentation by Lucia and Audrey. The H4 toolkits, a big effort from 3 work packages that work together to provide those protocols for the assessment, interventions, and the implementation and the evaluation of interventions. We also developed 10 policy briefs, 11 on the run, and we make use of the digital interventions across our test sites. So, we are so proud to present today the innovation platform. It's already online. And you can see here our interactive tools composed by the benchmarking tool, the decision supporting system, and the H-Work economic calculator. Then we have developed our 3 toolkits. Those have been the results of all the work done within our intervention site. So it's a combination of all our efforts, expertise, and knowledge, scientific knowledge, but also the knowledge shared by the employees, managers, and all the directors that have been involved from the very beginning to the very end of all the interventions implemented. And since they are confidential, we decided to translate all this and transfer all this knowledge, the tools, the instruments presented here, into our H-Work roadmap. As you can see, is a digital step-by-step guide for managers, stakeholders, HR, whoever is interested in promoting mental health and develop a mental health culture within their organizations. And the guide gives very practical tips on how to prepare the ground before starting the interventions, how to understand the workplace, the psychosocial risk factors, the needs and the challenges, and how to prioritize those needs in order to start planning the actions together and jointly with the employees, the employers, and all the representatives. Then the idea is to then follow and monitor those actions to keep track of the actions, to understand the employees' perceptions of those interventions. This will help to understand also how to adjust the implementation phase according to their needs during the implementation. And then you can also find measures to monitor the implementation and understand the effect of your interventions. A very practical guide. There are several tools available, questionnaires available, and we are so proud to offer those tools in many languages. So there's Italian, Spanish, German, Dutch, Norwegian, and I hope, and Czech also. So very proud of that effort. Thanks to all the partners that supported us in translating all these materials, all those steps. Thanks to the huge works done by EFPA in coordinating this work package, we also were able to translate all the knowledge from the consortium and from the review of the actual European policies about mental health, and we were able to develop 11 policy briefs where you can find recommendations tailored to many actors that are involved in promoting mental health. So managers, social partners, social media, SMEs, policymakers, how to promote mental health through digital interventions, the role of health insurance, and also the potential of using and exploiting artificial intelligence. So a really comprehensive overview of many actors and ways to promote mental health. Finally, we are also very proud to make available with an open data repository all the data that we have gathered. So there would be an easy link where you can download the data from all the measurement time points that Greta had showed you. That will also, we hope that can foster also our research across borders. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. And I will pass the floor to Sia and the other demonstration.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, so we are very, very excited to be presenting you the H-Work Innovation Platform. Before I leave the floor to Audrey, who's going to show you some use cases, I'm just going to explain a bit more about the background work that has been done to design the final version of the platform. And I'm going to start with its main aim. So beyond the goal of condensing the H-Work partners' expertise and knowledge about mental health at work, as well as the H-Work toolkits and policy briefs, the H-Work roadmap really wants to address one of the main challenges of our contemporary work environment. So as stressed and highlighted by one of the latest reports of the European Agency for Safety and Health at Work, there is a bit of discrepancy between managers' concern about their employees' mental health and their perception of their own resources to address this mental health issues, such as, for example, knowledge and tools. So with this in mind, the platform was envisioned to gather for this very specific target group, which is employers, managers, HR directors, and organizational health and safety professionals. So to provide them with scientifically validated knowledge to address this workplace mental health concerns and issues. And we wanted to do that so to design an interactive, easy to use and enjoyable platform. And upon that, of course, we wanted it to be freely accessible. So to do that, I'm just going to hop on the platform so I can better show you all its content. So what you see here is the latest version, and this is the result of the incredible work being done with the partnership and cooperation of Indici Opponibili, and a validation process and study, a thorough one, that has been carried out. So in this study, we interviewed 31 participants coming from the EU, for example, from Italy, Spain, Norway, Czech Republic, but as well as from the United States. And we, the participants came from a very heterogeneous professional background. We had HR professionals, we had organizational health and safety professionals, researchers, but also manufacturing managers, marketing people, communication people. And so we gather their insight and feedback and try to integrate this feedback on this platform. So in here, as you can see, Marco's already a bit explained this. We have our interactive tools, the roadmap, and we also have the policy brief section down here. So as for the interactive tools, we have 3 of them. The benchmarking tool allows users to understand their companies, how the company is doing in terms of policy and practices related to mental health, health and safety, and compares it against national and European standards across same sector and same sized organizations. As for the DSS, we have it here. It comprises 2 questionnaires that help users identify those psychosocial risks, as well as picking and selecting the most effective interventions for those particular needs. And lastly, we have the economic calculator, which tries to provide an estimate on the potential benefits, cost benefits related to mental health at work interventions. As for the roadmap, I'll go down here. So as Marco's already mentioned, this provides a guide from A to Z about how to the process related to. Why do I hear myself? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So it provides a guide from A to Z about all the process that has to be implemented to foster mental health, to implement mental health interventions. We have this now available in English, but very soon 6 other versions of the platform, of the roadmap, will be up in 6 different languages, and this was an amazing work done by all the partners that kindly helped me translating and coordinating this work, as well as the work done by Be Open. And then we have the policy brief section showcasing our 10 policy briefs, soon will be 11. And in here we have the latest evidence-based recommendations about mental health promotion in the workplace, mental health interventions, and some of these policy briefs are also available in other languages like Italian, Norwegian, but also Spanish. So in here, again, employers can find, for example, information and recommendations on how to implement and design interventions for SMEs, as well as implementing artificial intelligence tools to promote mental health. So in this process of validating the platform and integrating all the feedback that we got, we added some features on the platform, one of which is the mental health glossary, which provides users with the definitions of the terminologies used in this platform, so to facilitate the comprehension of the different tools. And as you can see here, you can download the file, scroll through it online. And another feature that we implemented is this preview button, because during the interviews, some of the participants made clear that for them, since they were managers, they have very short time, and if they see a login button, probably they will be not really willing to go through the login, or they're just going to walk away from the platform, the page. So we provide this preview button so they know, so in a way to encourage them to go through the login procedure, which is a very easy procedure to do. I just want to show you the page of the login. It's a soft login, so no data or cookies are going to be tracked. You just insert your email, you're going to get a code, and then you access the interactive tools. So I'm just going to give the floor to Audrey, who's going to present some use cases.
Thank you very much, Lucia. So I'm Audrey Antonio from the University of Bologna, and I'd like to wish you all first a good morning. And as was mentioned, to demonstrate how to maximize the use of this platform, especially for HR managers, OHS professionals, and employers, we've prepared 3 use cases to show or demonstrate how this platform and the tools can be used. So looking into the first use case, it involves a consultancy firm that has a client in Italy, specifically a financial organization with 150 employees. So this financial organization was reporting issues related to bullying, harassment, or abuse. And given these issues, the company or the organization was alarmed. Specifically, they were having doubts or concerns regarding the health and safety practices they're doing in the organization. Thus, they wanted more information, specifically a comparison on how their health and safety practices are in comparison to other organizations of the same industry. And much more, they wanted more information on what they can do to improve their health and safety practices. So the consultants referred the client to the Mental Health at Work platform, or the HR Innovation platform, specifically the benchmarking tool. So as was already mentioned, but I have to log in first. It's okay. So given that we have an access code already, which is valid for 1 week, users will be able to see the information they've previously saved, or they can input their own. So indicating the country, the organization size or employee count, and much more the industry sector, this tool is able to make comparisons regarding mental health and well-being at work by answering these 11 questions. So for example, in the use case, this organization was worried about bullying and harassment, as well as threats or abuse in the workplace. So looking at the results, they can see or gauge how they fare in comparison to, for example, organizations of the same size or other organizations with 150 employees. Or they can also see how they're doing with organizations in the same industry, and as been mentioned how many times too, in the same country or in the European Union. So this is the same case for the other questions. And given these results in the use case, the client was thinking what they can do. So the consultants recommended as well the use of this psychosocial well-being tool, which is part of the decision support system. So you can see that there's a number of questions that needs to be answered, because the purpose of this tool is to gauge how the organization or the workplace is doing in terms of certain dimensions of well-being and mental health at work. And compared to the benchmarking tool, you won't be able to see the results unless you answer all the questions. Yet, of course, this is informative and helpful for the organization if they truly want to see or improve their workplace well-being. So given that all the questions have been answered, and as noted as well in this feature of the platform, we can see in the results that the organization could still improve on dimensions of perceived distress and workload. And if more information is needed regarding this dimension, there's also this feature regarding the references which clients or users can look at. So given, as I said, that this tool is part of the decision support system, interventions can be suggested using this tool or this platform. So we can see these are some of the interventions suggested for the organization based on the results they received on their workplace well-being indicators. But specifically, these interventions are based on the interventions that HWork implemented during the project. So for example, the positive stress management. And what's great with this system is there is some brief information regarding this intervention, the objective, and who they can contact, and even useful links if they want to know more. But of course, there's always the question of which interventions and how many interventions to implement or use. You can see that this result is suggesting 16 HWork interventions. But we can also find a disclaimer here. I'm not able to zoom it, but it highlights the importance of assessing the fit between the organization's needs and environment with the intervention. So ultimately, the decision of which intervention to implement is still to the user or to the client. And for the use case, both the consultants and client decided to refer back to the HWork roadmap. So it has been described as a guide for a 7-step process for designing, developing, and implementing multi-level interventions. And because of this, they can refer to this roadmap in assessing the best intervention that would benefit the organization. So just as a preview of how you can use the roadmap, it starts first with an introduction or an overview of all the 7 steps involved. And it's easily accessible online, but for those who would like to make notes offline, you can also download it as an offline file. But using it online, there's a feature to zoom. And once you reach the last page of each step, there's also a direct link to go to the next steps of the roadmap or to go back to the roadmap itself. So to conclude this first use case, so yes, as demonstrated, the first step of the process after going through the introduction. So anyways, just to conclude the first use case, the consultancy firm showed their strategic approach in helping their client identify, understand, and address their critical workplace challenges by using this HWork interactive tools and roadmap. So now let's look at the second use case, which involves a public healthcare organization in Germany with 3,000 employees. So they've been observing productivity losses in their organization, which they thought was related to absenteeism of employees, specifically among employees who are experiencing high levels of stress. Thus, the occupational health and safety specialists of the organization decided to implement an intervention, specifically a positive stress management intervention to address these issues. But before they can do so, they need to make a presentation to the top management regarding the potential economic benefits and return on investment of this intervention. So going back to the HWork platform or the mental health at work platform, there's this useful tool called the economic calculator, which has been described to help in making cost-benefit analysis. So as you can see, it will provide results on return on investment related to mental health and return on investment related to turnover. So these are the results that users need to look at if they want to use this calculator. But to attain these results, they need to fill in certain organizational data. So let's say for the use case that the user uses the annual organizational survey data they have collected. And so what's great about the platform is there's this feature of sync active. So when you fill in information that needs to be repeated in the calculations, it's already filled out. But there's also an option to turn off the sync if that's the preference of the user. But anyways, I want to demonstrate to you that there are certain questions that needs to be filled out first before we can get any result of the calculations. So for example, employee salary cost is important, and we need to fill in this information as well as the information on the cost of absence, so we can get a calculation on the productivity loss due to mental health. Yes. So this form becomes active, and it's important to fill in this other information to start getting a result on the return on investment. So let's say these are the indicators for the hypothetical or for the use case. And we can see already one return on investment outcome, specifically the maximum amount that the organization needs to invest so they can attain a return on investment for their intervention. But for the use case, we already mentioned that the specialist has an intervention already in mind. So they would benefit from indicating the details of this intervention using this section of the calculator that looks at the cost of intervention. So the positive stress management intervention may require 10 hours from employees. Let's say they're looking to target 200 employees, and these are the additional costs of implementing the intervention. Again, until all the information is completed, the calculator will not work, but once everything is there, you will get the other two results of the return on investment. So the first result shows if the user is targeting a specific effect, specifically this one, let's say if they want to do just 5%, or if they want to have a 25% reduction in proportion of employees with high stress levels, then the ROI of that investment is 87%. And lastly, for this last result, it shows the minimum effect that should be observed so the intervention could break even. So aside from the return on investment related to mental health, there's also the option to calculate for an ROI related to employee turnover. So for example, these are the information that the organization has. And by completing this information, you get similar results to turnover. So for this use case, the specialist decided to go for the third option or the third result, and they will be aiming for these levels of effects or reduction in proportion of employees with high stress levels and in employee turnover, so their positive stress management intervention can break even. So that is the outcome. And for the last use case, we're looking at a small software company in Norway, and they've been observing issues related to poor performance, poor well-being, and low job satisfaction among their developers. And so the HR manager and the CEO of this company were looking for recommendations on how to go about in their situations. What can they do? And the HR manager came across the platform. And in the platform, they found a policy brief that's relevant for their company, specifically because they fall under the SME category. So they appreciate that there's their local language available in this policy brief. But looking at the English policy brief, you can see that it's similar to the roadmap. It's accessible online and offline. It may take some time to load online, so it's nice to have an offline copy of it. And similarly, you can find useful content regarding mental health and well-being in SMEs, as this is the topic of the policy brief. So the HR manager, the company CEO are then informed, and because of these explanations regarding not only the challenges, but also the opportunities of implementing a mental health and well-being program in their company. So looking at the last page of this policy brief, they find useful recommendations. If you can zoom in it. And yes, and then they see it mentions participation of employees as fundamental to the success. And interestingly, another policy brief touches on this topic, such as selecting interventions based on workers' need. And if they have a intervention in mind, since they're a software company, they were thinking maybe they can pursue a digital intervention. So there's another policy brief that helps them go about with their situation. So this concludes the tour of the Mental Health at Work platform, or the HR Innovation Platform. I hope you appreciated it, but much more, we encourage you to explore it and share it with people you think will benefit from the use of it. Thank you very much.